Okay, for this layout, I'm going to start by using the stamp set by Inkadingadoo. I picked it up at Michael's at Christmas time. It's called Warmest Wishes, and it's sort of a tropical Christmas set. And that's because this layout's about, now that we live in Alabama, what is Christmas like for us? Well, we went to the beach on Christmas Eve, and that's a big change from Idaho. So I started by stamping all of those images with VersaFine. And now I'm showing you my Inktense pencils because I'm going, or my Inktense blocks, because I'm going to use that to watercolor. And I'm showing how I have created a swatch at the bottom just by gluing on with multi-matte medium some watercolor paper and painting it so that I know what I'm looking at as I watercolor. And I am going to really shorten this watercolor process because it took me a while. One of the reasons that I chose the Inktense pencils is because they're permanent and they're translucent. And when you're working with stamped images, you don't want whatever you're coloring over the top to mask out the lines of the stamps themselves. And Inktense being transparent do that. And being permanent, they're really great for like what I'm doing right there. So you'll see it better on these shorts. I painted all of the little figures on the shorts with red and green, and now I'm painting over the top of it with that sort of evergreen color. And the red and green underneath don't shift and they don't change color. They just stay exactly as I painted them. And the color over the top is fairly translucent, so it doesn't cover that up. Right here is the paper I'm going to use. It's a paper pad from Michael's called Wildflower from our Memory Keepers. It was one of their special deals. And I've shown here that I have cut out these shapes on my silhouette, and I am using my Liquitex Flexible Light Molding Paste and a stencil. And I'm just stenciling on that texture. And basically, I'm making my embellishments. Once the texture paste had dried, I used some Lumiere paint, and this is Halo Pink Gold. And the other one is a blue-green, Halo Blue-Green. And I'm just going to paint it, and then I'm going to dab it off, and I'm going to really thin that paint so that, if you watch, it'll bring back the texture, and the texture will be kind of white. But it's transparent, so you can see through. That's the Halo Blue-Green. But it's still, so you can see the paper below it, but it still colors it and makes it shiny. I had a hard time getting my camera to focus on this, but that's the Halo Blue-Green, Lumiere. Lumiere is just an acrylic paint that uses Pearl X, and love it. So again, same procedure, really thin, and dab it off. Let it dry. And so then I used the Halo Ancient Gold to paint the tops, and I painted them full strength so it would cover up what was underneath of it, and it would look like the tops of the ornaments. And I had a hard time showing, getting that to show, but I apparently didn't have the camera zoomed well, but you can see the end result. So now I'm going to glue some of my little figures that I painted to the front of those. And basically, I just make my own embellishments when it comes to scrapbooking, and I use my mixed media techniques a lot of times to make my own embellishments. So that's what you're seeing in this video. That's kind of the takeaway from this particular layout, is that I used stamps and molding paste and my silhouette and a bunch of different things to create unique embellishments that you won't find anywhere else. At this point, I'm starting to put my layout together, and I pull out my Tim Holtz Distress ink so I can distress. I've got Worn Lipstick, which is about that kind of warm pink that paper that I pulled out of the paper stack is. And I'm gluing that down. I usually start with a sketch, but then do my own thing. As you can see, the other color that I chose is Evergreen Bough. And I'm just edging everything. And I'm gluing it down. By the way, humid climates are terrible for dry adhesive. Your stuff will fall off, and Alabama's about as humid as it gets. So I use liquid adhesive to glue together my layouts because I want them to stay. That's the whole sort of point, right? So I'm layering up my pattern papers. I do 8.5 by 11 layouts. This is a double spread 8.5 by 11 layout. You can't really see it at this point, but eventually I'm going to go, oh my gosh, I need to zoom out a little bit, and I will. Right there. So now you can see the whole layout. I pulled out a stamp of some holly leaves, and I take the evergreen bough and I stamp it around the edge because this isn't really Christmas paper at all. The wildflower paper stack is more of a summer paper stack, but I felt the colors were Christmas and ocean enough, and that's why I chose it. This is my Carnation Red archival ink, and I'm stamping, basically it's like a little bingo card that says Santa. It's just something I have in my stash. And there's another stamp, it's like a border stamp, and I'm just using it for background texture. Of course, I'm edging everything, as you can see, and gluing down my pictures. And I've got 4 small pictures and 1 big picture, and I'm getting them kind of arranged. And I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to place all this stuff. Those, the Christmas Eve part, I cut that on my silhouette. And I'm just fiddling with all of my little objects, and this just takes a while for me to decide exactly where I'm going to put these embellishments. I just have to fiddle quite a bit. And I suppose a lot of scrapbookers do that, right? They fiddle. I keep thinking I want to put something behind Christmas Eve, and I just decide not to. In the end, I decide that I didn't want that to compete with the 2 ornaments. So that, I keep trying it out, but it just doesn't work. And I'm sure, you know, you guys know, this is the way scrapbook layouts work. You gotta fiddle. You gotta fiddle and fiddle. I took all those little sand dollars and I made a little border around the layout. And that almost made me think about popcorn on a string and how we hang that on trees, and that was kind of the thought that was in my mind. I suppose I could have used my sewing machine to sew that down, and that would have been sort of added that whole on a string thing, but I just didn't do that. And I am committing to the photos. It's always good to commit to the photos. And I love that little penguin guy with his straw hat. He's so cute. And I've got the little flip-flops down there. You'll see him better in the picture, I'm sure. And we're getting pretty close here. Cut that off. Glue down the words. Still fiddling. So now I'm gluing down those little flip-flops and the other embellishments. The ones that I've decided on for sure. And finally gluing down the title. And I had gone over in my head 100 ways to put "at the beach," and in the end I decided to handwrite it. And I'm adding lines so that the lines of the behind paper kind of go forward onto the other paper, and I can put my journaling in there. So I'm handwriting "at the beach," and I'm creating like shadow. This isn't my favorite part of this layout, but it's okay. And I do enjoy some hand lettering, and I come in with my Zig Painty to add highlights to the "at the beach." Then I have to go over it with the black to make sure that it's nice and dark. And then after this, I'm going to do my journaling. And there's going to be journaling all over this thing. I like to do a lot of journaling. In this one I'm writing about how we kind of have a new tradition of spending Christmas Eve at the beach. And then, of course, I'm erasing my lines. And then I wrote how incredible it was that there were flowers blooming on Christmas Eve at the beach, which is really big for me. And then this is just about how the kids were so amazed and adjusting to what it's like to live in Alabama. And there it is.